The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 2, Castle. Chapter 10.
"We're going to see a wise man," explained Tal as they crept along the corridor that led to a stair up to the first red level. "My great-uncle Ebbitt. He will help us work out what to do next. And, Tal thought, he'll know what to do about Mila. Perhaps she could hide out while Tal found her sunstone. Mila nodded, silent once again. Tal noted that her hand was on her sword, and her eyes constantly in movement, searching for enemies. "He has a spirit shadow," Tal added. "All the Chosen do, but they won't do anything unless they are ordered to." "These spirit shadows are like your little shadow, but bigger?" asked Mila. "They're not always bigger," said Tal, "but stronger and more dangerous. They can't change shape like a shadow guard, but they can stretch and twist the shape they've got." Mila thought about this for a while. A few steps farther on, she asked, "What happens to a spirit shadow when its master is killed?" Tal shook his head. "The spirit shadow fades with them." He broke off, reminded of his mother. She had to still be alive. "Perhaps we will find out," said Mila. Tal stopped and turned to look Mila in the eye. "Mila, you can't fight in the castle," he warned her. "We have to be careful as it is. No one has ever come in from outside before. If you attack someone, it will just make everything worse." "I only fight if I am attacked," said Mila. "But you are afraid of something. Why should you be afraid in your own ship, your own home?" "I'm not afraid," Tal snapped. "It's complicated. There are some Chosen who don't like my family, and there are some other things happening that I don't understand. I'm just being cautious." "You know very little," said Mila. "I do not think your Chosen teach their children well. We would not let anyone off the ship who was so ignorant of the ice." Tal started to reply, but was too furious to get any words out. He took a long, slow breath, and finally managed to say, "It is very complicated because it has to do with people, not animals, or the weather. You don't have the education to understand, so just follow me and be quiet." "I know how to be quiet," agreed Mila. "I can be much quieter than you." "Good," snapped Tal. "Start now." They didn't meet anyone on the stairs or in the corridor that led to Ebbitt's rather strange quarters. This was not surprising, since Ebbitt had chosen to live in the least used part of the lowest red level. Apart from him, everyone here was a dimmer, the lowest rank possible in Chosen society, and was desperate to rise. As they left the stairs, Mila noticed the faint red tinge to the sunstones in the corridor and the faded red stripes that adorned the ceiling, and asked about them. Tal found himself giving a garbled explanation about the different orders and levels, which Mila reduced down to the rather simplistic, "Many clans live in your castle." This whispered conversation lasted until they came to the beginning of the corridor that Ebbitt used as one big room. As usual, the entrance was blocked with a jumble of furniture in odds and ends. Strangely, there was no sign of the wardrobe that Tal had used before as a gate. In fact, there was no obvious way to get through the tangle of upended tables, stacked chairs, spiked hat stands, cabinets, carpets, marble sculptures, and wall hangings. "Great-uncle Ebbitt is a bit," Tal said, eyeing the pile that reached nearly to the ceiling. "Well, he's not exactly normal." Mila nodded, then suddenly stepped back, her hand on the hilt of her Merwin hornsword. Tal couldn't see what Mila had reacted to until she pointed to a large blue cushion at the base of the piled furniture. It was slowly moving outward, almost without a sound. Then it fell over, revealing a narrow, triangular gap where two chairs had been leaning back to back. "Why couldn't you just have a door?" Tal asked, addressing the narrow tunnel through the furniture barrier. He got down on his knees and peered in. There was no sign of Ebbitt, but the falling cushion was clearly the old man's idea of a welcome. "Come on," Tal said to Mila, stretching out so he could slide through the gap. "It might look like it's going to fall down, but Ebbitt's an expert at this sort of thing." "There is wisdom behind all this rubbish?" asked Mila, but she knelt down, ready to follow Tal. The barrier of piled-up bits and pieces went much farther than Tal had expected. He had to wriggle through several turns before he finally emerged into a relatively clear area. Once again, everything had changed. There was no sign of Ebbitt's faded throne, but Ebbitt was there, dressed in an underfolk robe of white and a jacket in the indigo color forbidden to him since his decline to the red. He was lying on a long, heavily cushioned lounge with a sleep blindfold wrapped around his eyes. His spirit shadow, a great maned cat, was sitting at his feet, watching Tal emerge. "Go away," said Ebbitt, waving a languid hand. "I have a headache." "So do I," Tal replied. "I need your help, Uncle Ebbitt. It's very important." "So important that you haven't been to see me in 2 weeks?" Ebbitt asked, without moving. "I don't believe this," Tal shouted. "I haven't been to see you because I fell off the Red Tower." His shout made Ebbitt wince, but it had a more dramatic effect on Ebbitt's spirit shadow. It leaped to its feet and stood poised to spring. Then Tal realized it wasn't his shout the spirit shadow was reacting to. Mila had just climbed out of the gap in the barrier. "Don't do anything," Tal ordered, though he wasn't sure whether he was talking to Mila or the spirit shadow. "What is going on?" Ebbitt asked testily. He tore off his blindfold and sat up, blinking. When he saw Mila, who had drawn her sword despite Tal's instruction, he raised his hand, the sunstone ring on his fingers swirling with sudden light. "Don't!" Tal exclaimed again. "Don't anyone do anything!" "Who or what is that?" asked Ebbitt as he slowly got to his feet. He didn't lower his hand. Tal saw that Mila had put her face mask back on and her hood up. The amber lenses shone horribly in the sunstone light, and the mouth hole was horribly dark. She did look like a monster. "Please take off your mask, Mila," he sighed. "No one is going to attack you, right, Uncle?" "If you say so," said Ebbitt, who seemed slightly relieved to hear the word mask, and even more so when Mila slowly removed it. "But again, I ask, who are you? You have a natural shadow, but you do not look like any underfolk I have ever seen." "I am Mila of the Far Raiders, daughter of Yilse, daughter of Amor, daughter of Rohan, daughter of Cleo, in the line of Danir since the ruin of the ship." Ebbitt sat back down. "She's from outside," said Tal. "They call themselves Ice Carls." Ebbitt didn't say anything. His spirit shadow turned to look at him, then lumbered over to touch his face with one shadowy paw. "Uncle Ebbitt?" Tal said, suddenly anxious. The spirit shadow pushed hard at Ebbitt's chest, and the old man let out a sudden wheezing cough. "Outside?" he gasped. "Outside the castle?" "Yes," Tal explained. "That's where I've been. I really did fall off the Red Tower. My shadow guard saved me." Ebbitt took a deep breath, then reached under the lounge to pull out a long crystal bottle with a narrow neck. Tal saw that there was a glass next to it, but Ebbitt didn't bother with that. He took out the stopper and took several long drinks. "Distilled cordial of halo flower," he said, setting it down. "From Einar, medicine for a mad old man. Come closer, Mina, daughter of Yilse, and all those others." "You can put your sword away, too," Tal said, then added in an aside to Ebbitt, "It's made from a merwin horn. That's why it glows." Mila hesitated, then sheathed her sword and approached. A few feet away, she clapped her fists together in the Ice Carl salute. "So there is some truth to the old legends," said Ebbitt, peering at Mila in fascination. "There is more out there than ice and snow." "Much more," said Tal, with considerable feeling. "Most of it trying to kill me." "Tell me everything," Ebbitt exclaimed, flapping his arms up and down in excitement. "This is the best thing that's happened in years." "What about Mother?" asked Tal. "How is she? And Gref and Kusi? What's happened while I've been gone?" "Your mother is still not well," said Ebbitt evasively. He got up and went to a cupboard, fetching food and a bottle of sweet water, obviously more suitable for his current guests than the distillation of halo flowers. "We will talk about them later. First, I must hear your story. Tal frowned, but from long experience he knew he couldn't make Ebbitt do anything he didn't want to do. The quickest way to find out anything from his great-uncle would be to tell him what had happened. After I left you, he started, I climbed the Red Tower.